Hello, you guys. So I said that I was going to do a particular video today, and I'm not doing it. um, the reason that I'm not doing it is because, and I may do the video tomorrow instead, but the reason I didn't do it is because I was listening to Vice's panel, and they've done previous feminist panels. Um, but I was listening to Vice's panel, and I guess I'm more passionate about talking about that. So the video we discussed yesterday that I said I was going to make is going to be delayed by a day or two because I want to talk about this. And it's like the late night. And in honor of this panel, I want to say that as I am doing this live, I will also be folding laundry. you know, to make all the feminists upset. I will be folding laundry as I'm doing this panel. I mean, not as I'm doing this panel, but as I'm doing this live, as I am doing commentary on Vice's panel. So, because a woman's work is never done. So, as my family is all comfortable in bed, I'm up doing a YouTube commentary and folding clothing. And I know that's going to be a problem. Also, this kind of ties into a comment that was left to me, which I might touch on this comment tomorrow. I had somebody come under one of my videos who clearly is a feminist. I don't want to get into that today, but that's like a whole nother conversation. And maybe we'll have that conversation tomorrow when we talk about like interacting with men and what makes sense there. But for today, let's get into Vice's panel because that is what I want to talk about right now. So let's just get started. I skipped over like some of the beginning when everybody was introducing themselves because there's only one woman's introduction on this panel that I'm very much interested in. I also think it's important to say that this is a very interesting panel. There are two white men in the panel, like on the panel itself, who are trying to pass as women. And then the moderator of the panel is a white man. So I just think it's very interesting that in a conversation about feminism, which explicitly deals with women's rights, that there are three white men present who are presenting themselves as women and enjoying, being part of that discussion. That is not lost on me. I actually think it's interesting to have a man presenting himself as a woman, moderating a panel on women's issues. I think it is interesting to place men portraying themselves as women within a conversation about women's issues. And yeah, that fascinated me. Three men present. There were more men present than there were non-white presenting women present. There were literally more men in this discussion about women's issues than there were women who don't present as white. And I think there's like one ambiguous woman, the one we're looking at right here. So when the men outnumber varieties of women, that's when you really have to step back and ask yourself, why are we even here? But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. Oh, were you watching? I'm glad that you go back in the archives. I feel like people on my Patreon who have way more videos than YouTube does. I wish you guys would go back in the archives, like the Patreon membership. Thank you for saying that. I just want to thank you for saying that. Because I think the Patreon membership, people keep forgetting that the memberships are not just for the new videos I put out. There is an archive of years worth of videos that you guys can access. And I wish y'all would access them, quite frankly. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyway, let's go ahead and go.
I think I'll preface and say that I don't know so much about modern Western feminism, and there might be a lot of terms that I don't know, like political jargon and stuff. But I believe in the advancement of women, whoever considers themselves a woman. I think there's a deficiency in...
When she says whoever considers themselves a woman, she means men. Let's get that out there, who consider themselves women. Also, I wanted to play her introduction and not anyone else's introduction, because I think she makes a valid point about in the West, right? We have conversations about feminism that are very out of touch with what's going on in many places. There are still many places in the world where women are heavily oppressed. And even as a conservative, I am not a Republican. Let's just get that out there. But as a conservative, I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that when we have even when I am having the feminism conversation, I am speaking about the West. I am not speaking about places in the world where women get burned to death if they cheat on their husband, okay? I'm not speaking about places in the world where women are literally held by force in brothels, in mass, in entire neighborhoods where there are just slaves, sex slaves. I am not talking about that. So I think this woman brings up a valid point, which is why I wanted to play what she says. But I do also want to say that we live in the United States of America. Many of us live in the Western world. So naturally, our conversations are going to be centered around our society. But if we had a wider conversation about the plight of women on Earth, I think it would be a very different conversation depending on what part of the world we were talking about and what the individual conditions of those women are.
Society. So it's deeply rooted that feminism has always existed. I think America's a little obsessed with themselves, and it's like always feminism is rooted in America. And like, oh, white women started it. And it's kind of offensive because for thousands of years, women have been dying for their rights.
I think as a Black woman specifically, when you talk about feminism, the mainstream first thing you think about is a certain type of feminism that tends to exclude still, even today, even with intersectional feminism, exclude.
I'm not interested in this. I want to move on.
Barriers and friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a Black woman and being a Black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further. You have more barriers. You have more friction, you are less able to get what you want, you're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, you know.
I want to skip over this too.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually, I think there's a lot of benefits that men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
Just from a viewpoint over here, though, it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're...
Okay, first of all, she is not pretty. So there is no pretty privilege in what she's saying. But I will say this. Even though I am a conservative, I do recognize that, number one, I agree with her that life is easier for women in many ways, right? But life is also easier for men in many ways. I think the whole problem with feminism is comparing the female experience to the male experience. There are many ways that there are privileges to being a woman that men cannot even begin to fathom. Homosexual men kind of tap into it because they're dealing with men on a sexual level. But as women, there are many, many privileges that we experience on the whole, even though each and every one of us may not experience exactly the same privileges. However, there are many privileges to being a man, and I think that's just the reality. Like there are upsides and downsides to maleness and femaleness, and it just is what it is. That's what I think.
You're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that
Girl, even she was shocked she got called pretty, because you know darn well she is not pretty. I mean, she's not ugly, but she's not pretty.
beauty standards have accepted. And so
they call me ugly on the internet all the time. They be roasting me daily, I swear to God.
Because she is ugly. But look, for their community, she ain't pretty. No, we're not even gonna do that. That woman has no legs. That's why she thinks she's pretty. Just in case said, in what way is life easier for men than women? Is that a real question? That's crazy to me. First of all, we live in a patriarchy, right? Men literally have more control over global society than women. Second of all, men are, on the whole, stronger than women. Third of all, men don't have to give birth, right? Men have a lower investment in the reproduction of humanity than women do. That is a privilege, right? Especially since men are overwhelmingly not judged on their physical appearance. So when you add having to give birth to new humans to having your value diminished if your body changes after you give birth to new humans, that is a privilege that men have over women. They don't have to deal with that, right? Men can spill and sow their seed all over the place and literally just dip out and nobody ever knows that they are the father. Women, each and every time there is a pregnancy, the one person who will for sure have to deal with that is women. And that's what I'm saying is it's because we're different, right? We're different. We are different. There are privileges to being a woman. There are privileges to being a man. And there are downsides to being a woman. And there are downsides to being a man. Maybe I don't even want to call them downsides. I want to, maybe I want to call them just, things that are not as easy about that. Right? Women are privileged in that society is way more empathetic to us. Way more empathetic. Society is more protective of women. Society is less interested in the benefits of, the issues of men. Right? So there are downsides and benefits, but I just think to ask, in what way is life easier for men than women? It's like, come on now. Are we going to really sit here and pretend there aren't it's easier for you to pee if there was no bathroom, right? Most of the differences between men and women and how we experience the world are because of biology. Just being able to whip out your penis and pee anywhere you want is an advantage, right? The default being that you are expected to be in charge or in a place of leadership is an advantage. I mean, I don't know if that's a real question or not. Like, there are many advantages to being a man, and there are many advantages to being a woman. I think we should just, accept that. There's nothing wrong with admitting it. I can think of many privileges I have as a woman. I don't know why women try to pretend we don't have privileges, and I don't know why men try to pretend that they don't have privileges. Can we just all agree that there are different privileges for being male or female? Let's keep the conversation honest. You know what I'm saying?
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there is a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
I mean, let's also dig into why these quotas exist and why these, what you're calling
because we want
exist.
special treatment.
No, but it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women. because of sexism.
How is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can
Who
pick
has
what
no
we want to
barriers?
pick.
Doesn't have barriers.
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can?
What's stopping you? As a woman.
As a woman.
As a woman.
That ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well, as I
You don't
said
have to
before, I'm
think about.
speaking about women.
You're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as
An able-bodied
able-bodied
woman.
woman.
I
That is
understand.
white.
Represents what?
I agree with the conservatives on this. The conversation is about women on the whole. So just bringing in having no legs, like having no legs is going to be a problem for everybody. Okay. If any of us were to lose our legs today, despite our gender, there are going to be barriers that we're going to have simply by virtue of having no legs. And I don't like, having no legs is a serious thing. So we're sitting here looking at a woman with no legs and you almost can't say anything to her because she's got no legs. Like that's a privilege. You know what I'm saying? She has the privilege of people not really wanting to keep it real with her because she's legless. She has the disadvantage of having no legs. And I'm not trying to God help the people with no legs. I feel terrible for them, but at the same time, like you don't get to just being disabled and being a woman are not the same thing. The issues caused by being legless are universal issues to legless people. They are not woman specific. So I actually need to stand by what she's saying right here.
Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're just going to ignore
white
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over a body.
Okay, first of all, that's a man. Let's start there.
The pay gap doesn't exist.
my friend.
It doesn't. It's the industries that women pick.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
Okay, the way that she's framing this, I don't like, but let's hear them out. I want to make a comment on the pay gap, but I don't like the way she's framing this because it's very attacking women, and that's a problem for me.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs. The way that men work and women work are astronomically different. And to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
You know what? I like how she explained it. You know what? The ugly chick in the purple dress, she gets on my nerves because she just panders too hard. This other woman, whose name I can't remember, in the jeans, what she said is closer to the truth. There is a very real pay gap between men and women. Even when they are doing working at the same job. So number one, yes, women don't typically want to go into fields like, and God rest her soul, I'm not going to even bring it up now because I'm not ready. But women don't go into the field of things like welding very much. I knew a Black woman. We will talk about her another time. My heart's just not ready for that now. I knew a Black woman who was a welder. She did welding for a living. Welders get paid. They get paid, right? But many women don't go into welding. Number one, because it's hard work. It's hard work. There's a lot of heavy lifting. There's literally hot, molten metal flying around, burning you, right? That is an industry that women don't want to be in for obvious reasons. Most of us, it's physically taxing, and we also don't want to get burned with hot, molten metal, right? Now, there's a small sector of women who will go out for that, but most women aren't trying to be welders. I can think of another job that pays extremely well that most women aren't going to want to do. On high-rise buildings, like those really tall buildings, cleaning the windows of those buildings. Do you know that the people who clean the windows on those super high-rise buildings get freaking paid. That is like a, $200,000 a year job, $100,000 to $200,000 a year, depending on the city you're in and how high you're going up. It could be more with longevity in the job force, but very few women, and they get paid hazard pay because, you're cleaning the windows of a skyrise, and if you fall, you're dead. So they get a lot of hazard pay. There aren't like hordes of women running out to do these jobs, right? It's just factual. Construction is another industry. It's dangerous. You're getting stubbed, you're getting cut. There's a lot of heavy lifting. Many women work in construction. I don't want to say many. Some women work in construction, but most women aren't like, they're not like, man, construction pays really well. Let me get into that field. So yeah, there are some jobs that women literally don't want to do. On the whole, the percentage of women who even have interest in doing those jobs. What about being on the front lines of the military? How many women do you know are dying to just get right out there in the thick of the action and be bleeding all over themselves on their period while killing somebody on the front lines? Like, very few women are aspiring to this. So it is true that there are some fields women just don't want to go into. I could think of a million fields that women don't want to go. Working in an oil field. It's filthy, dirty work. It's hard work. It's horrible on your body. Those people get paid. I don't find a lot of women wanting to be in those filthy, nasty, dirty jobs, even though they're high paying. Now, when a woman and a man are doing the same work, when we are doing the same work, women tend to make less. That's a very real thing. So to say the pay gap is a myth is stupid. It's not a myth. Women make less because of what the chick in the jeans said, because we live differently. Number one, being a woman is just more difficult in general. I'm going to talk about the trans men who think they have periods on another video. But I don't know about you guys, but having my hormones fluctuate 4 times a month, they fluctuate before my period, they fluctuate during my period, they fluctuate after my period, then they get leveled out and then they start freaking fluctuating again. Like, having your hormones jump all over the place 4 times a month is very taxing emotionally and on your body. If you're like me, some women bleed for 3 days and you know what? I hate you. No, I'm kidding. I don't hate you. But I go for 7 days. And I feel like all of the energy has been sapped out my body and I have very extreme cramps. My estrogen levels are super high. And so my period is long and my cramping is problematic. All I want to do is freaking sleep. I want to go to sleep. If you're a woman, you have the possibility, most of us, of giving birth. Carrying a whole nother human being inside your body. I mean, that is, to work through that can be very difficult. Pregnancy can be easy. I've had easy pregnancies. Pregnancy can be really hard on women too. Then you give birth. And your body starts making milk because you're actually designed to spend the first several years of your child's life with your baby. That's the design of a woman's body. So women make less money than men in the same jobs because we are biologically different, which goes back to what I was saying when Justin Case, asked me, hey, how are men more privileged? I said most of the privileges that women experience and most of the privileges that men experience are based on biology. Because we are biologically different, some things are simply harder on us. And so because women are having babies, they're breastfeeding, they have to go out, they have to heal after they have the babies, they're having periods, they're doing all these things that are biological, normal and healthy, it means that we tend to work less. We tend to not be in jobs as long. We tend to take more time off. And when all of the things that are, caused by our womanhood are added up, it means that we end up making less money than men, even when we are doing the same work as them. And I don't think that's anything to be mad about. I think the problem is because feminism has women thinking that they need to do the same jobs as men. It has women thinking that being a homemaker is some sort of a punishment. Women are out here working 9 to 16-hour shifts, doing similar jobs to what a lot of men do, and killing ourselves. And I don't think women are exactly, overall happy this way. And then when biology steps in and says, hey, lady, you're a chick, this is going to be harder on you, and we need to take more days off. We are the primary caregiver because we're literally designed biologically to be the primary caregivers of a baby. If we do it according to biology, a woman can even be separated from her child for at least 3 to 5 years. Like if we were true to female biology, the pay gap would be so much bigger because women are literally like the kid can't even survive without you if we were true to biology. So I think, there are biological differences. That is why there is a pay gap. But women are so self-hating. Man, I really want to bring up this freaking message that this lady left me. Women are so self-hating that they don't even want to face reality. It's really pathetic. I've never met such a self-hating group as women. Women don't even like being women. We literally despise, on the whole, that's what feminism is about, hating everything about being a woman.
Well, two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism. And then also, actually...
Goodness. Goodness, I would argue that society devalues women. I would say all of society devalues women. I think that would be a fair statement, right? But we'll get into that conversation later.
Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the US, have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if you don't ask?
Why are they not asking?
Wait, what happens when women ask for a raise?
So,
Sorry, I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful.
She said women don't ask for a raise. You know what? I wish the lady in the purple dress would shut up because she's so pandering that everything she says, like, I hate. She never says anything that makes sense. She started off with, women don't want to do the jobs that make more money, and ended with women never ask for a raise. Like, ma'am, let the lady in the jeans take the lead on this conversation because everything you're saying, like, your audience of men is not here. Okay. That lady in the purple dress gets on my nerves because her crap doesn't even make sense.
Well, I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in,
But
go through the wall.
It is a very privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right? And having choice and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, like having bread, having food. And those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right? Of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them in...
I will say that. I agree with her there. I care more about, when I think about what matters to me when we talk about women's rights, It's like, do women have the ability to access menstrual supplies for free? I'm going to be honest. I just think that there should never be a woman who doesn't have the ability to access pads and tampons. I think that pads and tampons are not something that should be sold. I mean, what does a woman do if she doesn't have money and she can't access those? These broads want to kill their babies and fight over, if they're getting as much money as men are. And I'm like, I'm concerned about, why don't we have menstrual supplies being free? Why does every bathroom that a woman can use not have free menstrual supplies in it? Why don't we have places that are regularly available, or when you go into stores, why isn't all that stuff free? Because every single actual woman, right, barring some severe medical issue, is going to need that every single month. That is a necessity for women. That's not even like an option. I'm more concerned with women who are not able to breastfeed their babies because they're so busy needing to work that they cannot actually stay home with their children. They can't bring their children to work. They can't stay home with their children. They have to be ripped out. I told you guys, being a homemaker most of my adult life, I see women out, like I'll have a new baby. I told you guys, and I would see women and the woman would be like, oh, I just had a baby too. And I'm always like, is it hard for you to be away from your baby? I've never had a woman say, nope, I'm fine. I just wanted to get back to work. Every single woman has said, yes, it's really hard to be away from my baby. It breaks my heart that so many women don't have the choice to stay home with their babies. The place where biology says we should be. The way women are biologically made, we are designed to be with our children. I wish that there were medical studies that talked about the damage mentally and possibly physically that it does to women and to their babies to be separated during a time where naturally biology says they should be together. I mean, if I were going to talk about feminist things, that's the kind of stuff I would want to discuss. Those are the kind of things I would want to discuss. I'd want to discuss why women have to be half naked in every music video and on every movie. I would want to discuss the extensive porn industry and why women are dehumanized and degraded sexually, and that women have become so desensitized to it that it's actually normal to them. And there are actually psychotic women out there trying to encourage other women to participate in this culture. Right down to trying to justify whoredom and a woman being so unable to access a living that she literally is selling her body. If I were to deal with, and these are the things you don't hear feminists talking about. They want to talk about, can trans people be included? They want to talk about, can we kill our babies in utero? They want to talk about all this stuff. But the things that actually affect women based on our biology, right? You guys know I believe there should be period leave. If a woman is working, the days that you're on your period, you should be able to stay home. How frustrating is it to have to be running errands on your period? You have your pad leaking, get blood on your clothes, you're cramping, you're exhausted, you're freaking, you know what I'm saying? These are female issues to me. That is a female issue, a distinctly female issue that men know nothing about. These are the issues I care about. Why are women having to pump milk in the toilet? Why do you have to take your breast pump? Do you want to eat your McDonald's in the toilet? You want to take your steak and eat it where people poop? But women have to go into bathrooms to pump their milk. Why isn't there mommy parking at every store? We have handicap parking. There are way more women who are mothers with small children than there are people who are handicapped. So why don't we have, it is terrifying to have to walk through a busy parking lot with 2 or 3 or even 1 small child? Why don't we have special parking for the 50% of the population that's giving birth to babies and trying to be out running errands with all these little people while crazy people are driving all over the parking lot? These are things I think are women's issues. I don't think the ability to kill your kid, I don't think the pay gap, I don't think that those things are women's issues. I think things that distinctly affect women because of our biology and because we are primary caregivers by nature, those are what feminism should be centered around. Not this made up, make believe, retarded stuff that the feminists are on, being able to have sex indiscriminately. Like just stupid stuff. Feminists are dumb. I cannot stand feminism because feminism is so anti-woman, it makes me sick.
Experience them every day.
Like what in the U.S.?
So,
like what?
What would you like to know an example of?
I know you said that there's like barriers. I want to know what barriers in the U.S. today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman. I said as a woman.
Well, no, I can't answer as a woman.
I just feel like your question is kind of hostile when you're like, there are no barriers to what I want. Congratulations. That means you have the privilege where you're not facing any friction, and that's showing. And I feel like it's
I think as an American, you're very privileged. Like,
I mean,
I'm not ignoring that.
Or like a basic level of what, I mean, the feminist movement is when it comes to just being born a woman, right? Physically, pound for pound, we are born as women and we have less lean muscle mass than men. So there are issues of violence and assault and stuff like that. And so therefore, there are policies, there are things to help women physically, like, for example, I believe being able to carry a firearm and being able to use that safely to defend yourself against men who are born naturally with more muscle mass than a woman.
I keep hearing the term equity. What would a world that has equity look like? Like, would it be 50% of everyone in the same jobs? Would it be like prison, 50%?
That's equality.
50%.
Yeah,
So what does equity look like?
So equity is generally described as a state of fairness because historically a lot of people have been arguing for equality, but what does that give us?
Okay, this man talking right here, this whole man talking. You know what irritates me is why do these people never answer the question? Did she ask, can you define the word equity? She did not say, can you define the word equity? She said, what does equity look like? Now, I'm not going to say what equity looks like because I just explained what equity looks like to me. Free pads and tampons, being able to take your child to work or having your job on hold while you take 3 to 5 years to be with your baby. You know what I mean? Parking for mothers that's closer to every store door in existence, just like they force people to put in handicap parking. These are the things that look like equity to me. But because these people don't actually care about women, this man in particular, a whole freaking man, instead of just answering the dang question, nobody asked you what the definition of equity was, sir. Everybody asked you, or what the room was asked, what does it look like? What does equity for women look like? I think there are ways we could have equity for women. But because these people, these feminists, don't care about women, because they don't care about women, they are not going to answer the question. Watch, they're all not going to answer this question because they don't care about women. They don't care about equity for women. They have no idea what equity for women would look like. They just want to yell feminism, 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 out the side of their faces. Equity for them is getting an abortion. That's equity for them. That's the feminist version of equity, getting an abortion.
5 of the 1% being women. This doesn't really do anything for us. And so people have talked about equity instead, which is instead of sameness, it's fairness. And this would mean that we remove systemic barriers to engage in society, not just for women, but also for everyone.
So which barriers?
Those barriers.
She re-asked the question. She's like, you literally didn't answer my question. I asked, what does it look like? And you gave me a definition. So then she reframes it. What barriers? Now watch them not answer this question again.
That you don't believe in.
What does it do for you to have a bunch of ramps in your life? It doesn't do shit. I need those ramps, right?
Can we stick to male versus female? That's my question. So I'm thinking male versus female.
But my feminism includes ability, it includes
but my
race.
question is,
You
for
guys
women,
can talk.
women versus men. Like what barriers do we need removed? Because that's my statement. I'm not stating anything else. I'm stating women versus men.
It's very silly.
Like so
It's
what barrier?
Why is
I
it
just
silly?
want
The question
it's
is fair
silly.
question.
So,
Yes.
yeah, but
It's not a fair question. It's
how is it not a fair question?
Yeah, I'm wondering how is it? I never thought I would side with purple dress lady, but how is that not a fair question? If you say that there are barriers that need to be removed, the natural question is going to be, okay, what barriers? That's going to be the question. If you walk into a house party full of people because your car is blocked in, and you say, hey, my car is blocked in, and then that's all you say. So people are like, okay, so what make and model or what color is the car? Because we would love to send somebody outside to move their car, ma'am, but can we know what color the car is? And you're like, it doesn't matter the color of the car. You just acknowledge that my car is blocked in. It's like, nah, that's not how this works. I'm not a mind reader. You remember when I said a lot of women think people should have to be mind readers? This is the mess I'm talking about.
Kind of proving the point of what people, especially Black women, other people who are anybody who's not white, why we hear feminism and we don't want that label because it means, I'm just going to say, it means that. Like, it means that you've already gone to a pinnacle of whatever you think your happiness needs or whatever your survivalist needs are, when there are people on lower end who are trying to survive, who are trying to get to a point of what should be normal, based on what other people have.
It sort of sounds like you're saying feminism is not always inclusive then.
Right. It's most of the time it's not inclusive. It's more times than not, it's not. So, and within the just feminism space, again, there obviously the very basic is male versus female versus, but unfortunately, we've only had one subset of women be the face and voice and the academics and research and everything to be able to say, well, that's the standard we need to be in, when there are other people who are still trying to get to some type of normalcy and just living.
What is the biggest issue then that feminism faces?
I think it's the mindset. Women taking the agency, women taking initiative. I think it's mindset holding them back a lot, because if you want to be in a competitive world and compete, you have to have the right mindset. And I think a lot of people blame their lack of.
Honestly, every time this woman talks, I'm bored. Can we skip over her? Let's skip.
I don't think we do. I think that's assuming that we all want to be capitalist babies.
Right.
I think that men are not well adjusted in the society and women are not trying to re-embody what they have built for us. I think that what we're forgetting is a very important detail, which is just human respect and dignity.
Yeah.
And not.
Honestly, you guys in this chat have more of a sense of what equity for women would look like than a whole panel of feminists. That is crazy to me. That is crazy to me. Yes, chocolate chunks. A whole white man is monitoring this while dressed as a woman. This is out of control. This whole panel is out of control.
Asking people to prove what their experience is and to prove to you, it is such conservative thinking to say, I don't understand, explain it to me, versus just saying, I don't understand and let me respect what you are saying.
I'm respecting wherever you're starting point. I'm respecting that. I'm really respecting that. I'm saying that if you don't have the mindset.
I don't know. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Totally. But who said special bathrooms are not equity? That is a privilege. Somebody said that. I can't find your comment right now, but I saw it. If we're talking about special bathrooms for mothers with children, why? I think that is equity. Until you're a mother with a child, you can appreciate, how cool it would be? It would be really amazing. Just like we have wheelchair accessible bathrooms, because like I said, there's way more mothers than there are handicapped people. Just like we have wheelchair accessible bathrooms, if we had bathrooms that were just for, and I love these, you see them at some places, family bathrooms, right? Because sometimes the mother and the father, or the mother or the father, have to go in. A family bathroom is normally like, it's not a communal bathroom. It's designed like a one-person stall, but instead of one person going in, one family can go in. So they are relatively much larger bathrooms. They have a changing table. They have an adult toilet. Really good family bathrooms will also have a child-sized toilet, because it's very difficult taking your child to a public restroom and then trying to get that child onto a big toilet meant for a big body. So I think, family bathrooms, like I said, where they're built like single, single family use bathrooms I love those. I always love when I go to places and they have a family bathroom where I can go in by myself with my kids. I know there's a changing table there. I know there's a small size potty there. I love it when there's a breastfeeding lounge. Like, that is equity to me. A bathroom that has a breastfeeding lounge is equity. A clean place separated from the toilets where I can sit down and nurse my baby. That is equity. And I have to say, during the years when my children were younger, I would only go to stores that had that, or I'd go to a mall where I knew I could go into a Nordstrom or a Neiman Marcus where they had a breastfeeding room. And I so appreciated that. I remember the first time I saw a breastfeeding area in a woman's bathroom, and it was a totally separate room with a door that mommies could go in and breastfeed their babies. I have never been so grateful for anything in my life. Like, so I think it is equity, because everybody's a child at some point. All children have mothers, right? And that is the reality. So, but like I said, these people don't like women, so those are not the conversations they're having. They're not up here talking about family bathrooms and parking for mothers and free tampons. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about stupid stuff. This lady in a wheelchair wants a wheelchair to be stuck with womanhood. All people in wheelchairs have similar needs. That has nothing to do with gender. So I just don't understand it. Now, what I will say, and maybe further in the conversation I'll talk about this, is I'm not saying there's not intersectionality. And I'm going to give an example of that, but I don't think being handicapped is one of those intersections.
That you can even achieve it, you're never going to even try. So it's
But
never
achieve what? Like, what are we talking about? Because I feel like you projected this capitalist ideology on every woman.
Achieve whatever it is you're looking for, equality, equity. But what I'm saying is, women in the feminist space and a lot of these other spaces, we don't acknowledge that we have to take the initiative. We have to take the action. We have to have the mindset. We have to demand those things.
I don't understand how we're getting so off topic. This is about feminism today, whereas everybody wants to make this about their individual, here are all the multitude of other things that factor into my person. Great. This is about feminism. It's about womanhood. I understand that all of you have your own individual experiences and the other things that feed into you as a person. That's perfectly fine. But this is where intersectionality falls off the planet and loses, I would argue, probably the vast majority of people, including me. I'm not even a feminist. I don't give a crap about feminists arguing amongst themselves about who's the most victimized. But this is annoying to listen to. I honestly I don't understand anything anybody's even trying to get at.
Look, I just want to say that I don't think equity and this concept of competition can't coexist with each other. Equity is building more facilities for people who need them. It is recognizing that there are holes in the market and there's opportunities for women and feminine expansive people and meeting those opportunities. I think equity can buoy the pre-existing system that we live in a good way.
And this is where we're going to get to what I think the real feminist arguments are based off of policy. And abortion is the biggest one.
How many of you would identify as pro-choice? Let's do a show of hands for pro-choice.
I feel like pro-choice is pro-life, though.
Yeah.
Okay, and folks who identify as pro-life, why do you identify as each?
You've gone from legal, safe, rare to, yeah, I'm so proud, let me beatbox in front of the Planned Parenthood, yeah, I got murder on my mind. The fact that it's celebrated that murdering children, especially in late-term pregnancies, is celebrated, that people are so proud of themselves for mutilating a fetus, is just, it blows my mind. And I don't think that you need to be pro-life to even take that stance.
And you said late-term pregnancy.
Yeah.
I wish she wouldn't have said late-term pregnancy, because it indicates that it's somehow better to kill a younger baby in the womb. And y'all know I don't play that killing your own children crap. That's a no for me.
A lot of abortions do not happen.
I made the distinction specifically because lots of people still celebrate. There are people who, when the laws were passed actually here in New York, they said, yes, great, yes, I love the fact
but
that
you need to ask about what are people celebrating, right? They're celebrating access. We're not celebrating killing kids. Like that's not what it is.
Well, so this is what I'm saying.
So, like, here's the thing.
And abortion is celebrating killing kids. I mean, she's like, we're celebrating access. We're not celebrating killing kids. You're celebrating access to the ability to kill your kid. I mean, that's literally what it is. Because you know what happens if you don't get an abortion? You have a kid. So you are literally celebrating the ability to kill your kid. You're literally celebrating the ability to have access to murder your own child. That is what is being celebrated. I mean, can we at least keep it 1,000? Because if it's not celebrating access to kill your kid, then my question would be, if you don't have an abortion, what will you have? A kid. It's just, come on, at least own it. If you want to kill your children, own that you're killing your children. You're killing your sons, you're killing your daughters, you are killing your kids.
When we're talking about access to reproductive health and to abortion rights, right, and to being pro-choice, listen, that's your body, you do you.
The child is not your body.
As I go.
A baby.
It's so scary for me to hear people calling like guns the biggest equalizer for women, but taking their choices away.
I don't know why people say a zygote as if naming a stage in fetal development somehow makes it less of a baby. Because I go back to, if you did not kill the zygote, what would you have? A kid, which is why you want to kill the zygote. And I don't think guns are the great equalizer. I kept wondering why every time I bring up men being physically stronger, there are always women who are like, we have guns, we have guns. Guns are not the great equalizer. First of all, that's a whole nother conversation. Don't let me get sidetracked. Let these people talk.
From them at a policy level.
Why is that?
Having a gun is an equalizer.
It is.
Having rights is an equalizer.
Yeah, that's
having
right.
choice is an
Right.
equalizer.
Just like a gun right.
And in this country,
41 forms of
the
birth
policies
control.
that are pushed
41.
to continue perpetuating patriarchy and anti-women, like taking the autonomy away from women, it is heartbreaking to see women pushing that propaganda. It's all brainwash. Like you,
it's brainwashed because you don't agree with me.
No,
so
I've been brainwashed.
brainwashed.
I have lived deeply institutionalized.
Man,
I have lived under Islam. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, there's no like
You're not
guilt
interested
for
in
me.
human
No, I'm not interested in like
living.
thinking that like women are doing this really bad thing. Like in my religion, abortion is actually allowed. If the woman needs it, she's allowed, because, you know, it's very interesting how like.
You know what? And shout out to all the Muslims. But listen, Islam is a religion where their idea of heaven is going to heaven and having, 12 virgins to have sex with. So the fact that they're letting women kill their kids, you think you're going to heaven and have sex with 12 virgins. So just, it's no accounting for what Islam is doing. I just want to throw that out on the table.
Fundamental America is like
fundamentalist. This is nothing to
very,
do
very
with
like
even religion. This is very
conservative
basic
thinking.
scientific human rights.
We're also talking about people not having access to abortion clinics where they're doing the things themselves and they die.
No.
Right?
Oh, shut up. Is it 72 virgins? I thought it was like 12. I just knew that they got virgins. And you know, if that not going to heaven to have sex with virgins. I mean, for real. It's craziest mess.
We're also talking about women in the hospital who are pregnant, who have chosen to stay with their pregnancy and have issues at hospitals, and hospitals that are like, oh, no, we don't do that. Listen, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain it to anybody, but a lot of times when we're talking about access to reproductive health, for me, I'm thinking about Black, Indigenous people of color, particularly.
I just saw that. The number of virgins due. I said 12. Samuel said 40. Red Wine said 72. All we know is that they're going there to get virgins. Okay. That's the one thing we can all agree on. They're going there for virgins. They're going to heaven for virgins in Islam.
Women and girls who are working class, who do not have even access to like proper sexual education. It's the oppressive state of saying, I will force you to have a child even against your own will, right? Especially when you're thinking about women and girls who would be forced to have these children, who are already living in very traumatized and scarce situations. You want to ask about barriers? That's a barrier, right?
Okay. She's talking about, and I like how she framed this. She said, if you guys caught it, the first thing she said is they don't have access to proper sexual education. Then she followed that up with them not having access to abortions is forcing them to have babies. Let me tell you something. First of all, if a child is having sex, then I think the sexual education part of it, I'm talking about children having sex with children. Let me be very clear. When two children are having sex who are of reproductive age, I think they've figured out sex ed. Now, do I think they can understand the full ramifications of their actions? No, I don't. I don't think, and science has shown that children actually don't have reasoning skills like that, even if they are of reproductive age. But I think, you know what? Some lessons in life are learned hard. I also think that people should be better parents. But in a culture that promotes promiscuity, in a culture where parents sit their children down in front of televisions where they are acting out sexual acts, where the music videos they watch and the commercials they watch are sexual in nature, what you get are children emulating adult sexual behavior. But what we don't do is we don't kill babies for that. Now, if we wanted to pass laws to hold parents accountable for not keeping track of their kids, like my question is, where the heck are these kids if they're just out here having sex? Where are the parents at? You don't keep an eye on your kids. You just let your kid be out in the world just having sex. I don't know. But I don't think that's a reason for abortion. And I don't think pretending that a child that is having sex is like, oh, what earring is that? Is it a, yay, where'd you find this? Oh, thank you. I was looking for this. Mister just found my missing anchor earring. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, I just think the way that she framed it is too much for me.
There. Women in poverty aren't able to access the way that rich women are. And no matter what happens, rich women are gonna keep getting abortions and people in poverty are gonna not. And the choice, opening it up, the overruling.
Oh my gosh. If poor women don't want to have babies, then don't have sex. It's that simple. You know, the easiest way to not get pregnant, it's not an abortion. Or the easiest way to not have children. The easiest way to not have children is not an abortion. The easiest way to not have children is to not have sex. You know, back when I was growing up, you know, I'm old. Back when I was growing up, you know what they taught us? Abstinence. They literally said abstinence is the only way to prevent pregnancy 100% and to prevent sexually transmitted diseases 100%. That is what they taught when I was in school. Now what people are taught are condoms and abortion. We were taught abstinence. You don't want to get pregnant, you don't want to get a disease, abstain. 100% effective is abstinence. These days, Nobody wants to say abstain. We treat sex like it's air. Like if you don't have sex, you're literally going to die. We say wear condoms, get abortions, take birth control. We've gone from abstinence to condoms, birth control, and abortions.
Is marginally affecting people of color, people in poverty, way more than people who are going to get access to those abortions.
Actually,
anyway.
incorrect. You're there's actually more abortions for people in poverty. It's just at a lower rate.
Why do you think that abortion has been so tied up in this feminism conversation?
It's all just social structure set up around bodies. So if not all women are able to have babies, but it's about the barriers and value that we give to these specific bodies, right? And so if abortion happens in a woman's body, that's why this conversation is coming up.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said,
what the heck does that mean if abortion happens in a woman's body? What? Okay.
that not all women are able to have babies or pregnancies. Are you saying, meaning like an infertility issue?
A number of reasons. There's all kinds of reasons that not all women are having babies.
Pearl, I saw your hand up. Yeah.
I think women want to sleep around and not have any consequence for it.
Hell yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's not true. There's only one reason a woman could not have a baby. Now, women may not choose to have babies, but a biological woman, the only way that she cannot have a baby is infertility. That's the only way. A woman is either infertile, meaning she is incapable of having a child, or she's fertile. So the only women who cannot, I'm not talking about choose not, but cannot have babies are infertile women. There aren't a plethora of reasons why. There may be a plethora of ways a woman can become infertile. There may be a plethora of ways a woman's womb may be barren, but there's not a plethora of reasons. The only reason that a woman cannot, again, I want to be distinct. I'm not talking about women choosing not to. The only way a woman simply cannot have a baby is because she's infertile. Now, that infertility could be she had too many abortions, so her cervix literally will not stay shut long enough to carry a baby unless somebody sews it shut. That infertility could be she has a genetic condition or has had an accident or a disease that has made her infertile. That condition could be that she's had a hysterectomy. That condition can be that she has no ovaries. But the only way a woman cannot have a baby is because she's infertile or something is medically wrong with her. But otherwise, womanhood means being able to carry a child. The exceptions do not make the rule, they prove the rule. And the rule is women carry babies in their bodies. That's the rule. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. It's just the rule. It's amazing. It's wonderful. What a privilege it is as a woman to be able to say that you literally, every human you look at was inside the body of a woman. That is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, instead of, taking personal accountability and being on birth control, they just want to do whatever they want.
You say this like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like you said.
Can I also ask, do you have any care to empower women, or is disempowering women part of your steez?
To see this as shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Okay. Why is it empowering to sleep around?
No,
Why is
what
that
I'm saying
empowering?
is I feel like you do take the way.
I honestly cannot stand the sound of her voice. I mean, oh my gosh, just answer the woman's question. The reality is, purple dress lady, every time I've heard her talk, she does speak to disempower women. She panders to men. She panders, and I'm conservative. I even find her pandering, okay? Even her approach We could have the same conclusion, but her whole approach is very pandering. So I'm like, she asked you, do you just want to disempower women? And she said, what's empowering about, having a bunch of sex? That wasn't even the freaking topic. Now, I'll agree that being heavily promiscuous is not a form of empowerment. But who the heck was talking about that? Nobody was even talking about that. Just answer the woman's question. Do you just want to disempower women? No, I want to empower women. I want to empower you by making you love the fact that you can produce children. I want to empower you by creating a society where you don't feel it's necessary to murder your own kid to have a good life. I want to empower you by passing laws that are understanding of the fact that there are very big biological differences between you and men, and create a society that accommodates the unique role that women have in it. Like, there's a respectful way to answer these questions. And she annoys me because she just comes back with something that is completely unproductive. And this is why conservatism has such a problem. Because why don't you listen to what people are saying and directly address what they're saying? Just all of this, just complete disregard for people's points of view. I don't like that. Like, hear what they're saying, respond to what the heck she asked you. That would have been an opportunity to bridge a gap. But instead, she says some stupid stuff about what's empowering about having a bunch of sex. It's like, that's not even productive. Nothing is productive about that. And then you watch this. The whole conversation gets derailed and everybody starts being ignorant because she was ignorant, and nobody wants to not be ignorant on this panel. It's like all the panelists got together and agreed, how ignorant can we be? And everybody said, let's see. Let's see if we can take this to the height of actual ignorance ever possible. And let us sidestep all of the important issues to just, battle off who can be the most ignorant on the panel.
To speak on women is very sort of like, women just don't want to do this. Women just don't have this. Women just want to this. And I wonder why you have so much like hatred towards women.
I don't hate women.
Where does that root in? It
I don't
sounds
hate
like
women.
you do.
I am a woman.
That doesn't mean you don't have
I could be
self-hate.
black and still be internalized racism.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm saying specific things that you're saying, like women don't want to work, women don't want to this, women want to sleep around.
Okay, in fairness, she never said women don't want to work. In fairness, purple dress lady never said that women, she never said that. At no point did those words leave her mouth. She never said women don't want to work.
Where did you learn these belief systems from?
Because, the question was, why does abortion keep getting brought up? 40% of women that have had abortions have had 2 or more. 40%.
Good for
so
them.
what does that say to me?
Not legless wheelchair lady talking about good for them. Ma'am, no. Why would you even say, this is what I mean, these women really do hate women. While the little white Muslim woman on the corner is talking about, where did you learn to hate women? No, legless woman hates women. I think legless woman might be barren. I really do. I think the woman with no legs, maybe she can't have a baby. I don't know what's going on in there, but I feel like she can't have kids, because who the hell says good for you if you've had 2 abortions? Baby, look, abortions wreak havoc on a woman's body. I told you guys, I know a woman, she had so many abortions. They had to sew her freaking cervix shut and put her on bed rest just so she could give birth to the one kid she has. Her womb and her cervix were so freaking damaged from abortion that they had to sew her shut. This woman owned a hair salon. She was very successful. And when she finally found a man to marry and to reproduce with, her womb was so ravaged, they had to sew her up and make her lay down just so her kid wouldn't die. Who the heck says good for them when a woman has multiple abortions? You have to really hate women. You have to really hate women to even applaud a woman putting herself through that. You guys know, I think women abuse their bodies far too much to have sex with men. Whether you are taking the RUB 84 pill or 86 or whatever it's called, and cramping and bleeding alone in your house, in excruciating pain all by yourself, so society doesn't have to be bothered with the trauma of what you're going through, or whether you are in there getting a dilation and extraction, whichever way you kill your baby. How much hatred does a person have to have for you to say, good for you? I'm so glad that you were bleeding alone in pain, doubled over by yourself in your house after your abortion pill. Good for you. You went in there 2 times to get your cervix dilated and get your baby sucked out. Good for you. Okay, come on now. Like, that's not hatred of women? Good for you. Good for the woman that has to go through that or chooses to go through that twice. We're not worried about her mental health. We're not worried about her physical health. We're not concerned for her. It's good for her. I mean, I'm telling you, feminists hate women. They are so disgusting. And if you let them talk for long enough, you can see what disgusting people they are.
That means you're using it as a form of birth control, and they don't track the 60%.
What kind of abortion?
Can you let me finish? They don't track the 60% to say who in the future has abortion. So to me, it's like, why are they dying so hard for abortion? They want to sleep around with no consequences, even though you have 41 forms of birth control.
Who does that benefit? I don't think that benefits women. I think actually that benefits men, because it means that men can have sex with you without consequence. It means that you can sleep with whoever you feel like. Great, but there are consequences because women are the ones who get pregnant and carry babies and give birth.
It's a very binary version of
yes,
sex.
because sex is binary.
Yeah, that is a binary version of sex. What in the hell? Are there other ways that women are getting pregnant? Are we out here having immaculate conceptions? What does she mean that's a binary version of sex? Penis and vagina equal baby. It is binary. You have a penis, you have a vagina, you have an egg, you have sperm, it equals baby. What about reproduction is not binary? What in the diluted crap is she talking about? This no-legged woman is off. You could tell let me tell you something. Miss No Legs, you can tell she's used to being privileged. You can tell she's used to people kissing her butt because they see she has no legs. Because she is wild out here. Look, I'm all about, she wants some equality. I'm going to treat Miss No Legs equal. Because the only way that she got this crazy outlandish is because she has no legs and people likely feel bad really calling her out on her BS. In the same way she complains about how, everybody's privileged because they don't have legs over her. There are privileges to being handicapped too. Like, it sucks to have no legs, but at the same time, everybody automatically treats you like you're some kind of saint because you're handicapped. It's like getting cancer. Do you know what I'm saying? And my mother died of cancer, but you have some horrible, nasty, evil people get cancer and all of a sudden they're raised to sainthood just because they have cancer. This is like no leg lady to me. It's like a nasty human being, but she has no legs. So all of a sudden, it's like she's an angel, and she's probably going through life with people not even wanting to be mean to her because, you don't want to be the person that was mean to the lady with no legs. She's giving me privileged. Okay, let's talk about handicap privilege. Everybody wants to be so darn equal. Let's talk about the privileges of being handicapped, because there are privileges there. There are disadvantages, the handicap part, and there are privileges. Everybody feels sorry for you. Nobody wants to be mean to you. Everybody's being fake nice to you because nobody wants to be the evil, mean person that put down the handicapped kid.
But please let me finish my point.
Oh, God.
It's tricking women into thinking that aborting a pregnancy, terminating pregnancy is something to be celebrated, when in reality, for a lot of women, especially those who are doing it under duress, say that they've been raped, or in the small circumstances where something really traumatic has happened to them, that's a medical decision. Or say that they're miscarrying and then they have to have an assisted termination. That's a medical procedure. It's not a celebration of, oh, look at the.
the idea, the sort of like moral setting of that it needs to be rare is, I think the delineation between that's a medical abortion and that's like a fun abortion is really interesting because they're all medical. It's all a medical procedure. And so no matter what you're doing, going in there and getting it, like it's not like, oh, you're only allowed two. It's just like, you should just be able to get a medical procedure done when it's something that you need done.
We shouldn't be desensitized to taking someone's life. That should never be an empowering factor for a woman.
I definitely agree in that, like, there should be no.
Yeah, like we should never be desensitized to murdering our own kids. Like, can we say that? I'm so glad there was at least one Black, pro-life woman on this panel. Like, come on, women. Because men don't have to go through this. We should never be desensitized to what it means to literally have to have a life die within our body. That is some serious crap. That is a horrible thing, whether it happens by abortion or happens because of miscarriage. That is a terrible thing. And as women, we, at the very least, can we respect that that's a terrible thing? That to have a living human being in your body and then have that human being die in your body, meaning something is dead in you, is a horrible thing. That ish is wild.
Absolute thing any woman should do. There should not be an absolute response to incest or rape or any of these things. Every woman should have the choice of if they want to or not want to carry that child, whether it is having fun, getting raped, incest, whatever it is. I don't glorify and glamorize abortion. I think it's a very traumatic thing. I doubt that if somebody has to do, like if they have to do it, they'll do it. I don't think.
Oh, finally, this woman is talking some sense. Now, I don't know about it if they have to do it. Nobody has to get an abortion. Okay, we have to breathe. We have to eat. We have to go to the bathroom. Nobody has to get an abortion. Okay, come on now. Like we really throw around the word "have" too easily. We need oxygen. You know what I'm saying? You need oxygen. You don't need an abortion. That's not a need.
Think that people are like, doing like have 6, get the 7th free and having fun with it. And I think that like glamorization and glorification of any side is not okay.
Did the Dobbs decision make anybody here sort of rethink abortion access, reproductive health care?
It's anti-woman, right?
I'm sorry. I just can't let go that a white man is moderating this panel and then 2 other white men are on the panel. Why? Why do this? Why do this? I don't understand.
It's it does not center people to have that voice for themselves and their own decisions, right? It is a barrier, right?
It's giving more agency to women because it's moving it back to the state level. So locally,
but why would the state have the ability to tell me what to do?
Locally, the women.
So hold on. Melanated and one other person brought up abortions in the event the mother's life is in danger. Here's the thing. If you have something like an ectopic pregnancy, that is an unviable pregnancy. So we can't even consider something like that an abortion in the traditional sense. I won't give you my personal opinions on ectopic pregnancies because y'all aren't ready for that life. Y'all know I'm not politically correct. I'm going to say something that's going to trigger a lot of people. But if the baby is properly implanted, so it's not an ectopic pregnancy or anything like that, if the baby is properly implanted, then there is no case where an abortion is needed to save the mother's life. There's no case. None. There are no cases. There's no such thing. I actually have a video on this channel with an ex-abortionist who is also an OBGYN, and he very clearly states it. In all of those cases, what we should do is, number one, we would attempt to keep the baby in as long as possible. Or number two, you deliver the baby. You deliver the baby. And then you do everything you can. You do everything you can to help that baby live. But you don't kill the baby. You deliver the baby. In every single case, you deliver the baby. The baby has no skull. You deliver the baby. You give the baby palliative care. You are humane. You deliver the baby. But don't take my word for it, you guys. I can't think of the name of my video. If I find it, I'll like attach it somewhere. Well, I can find it. I'll try to remember to attach it somewhere. But it is with an OBGYN who has performed literally thousands of abortions. And he just shoots all the way straight about this abortion in the case of the mother's life being in danger. He shoots all the way straight about it. It's really, really good. I also shared recently a video on my community tab, also with an abortionist, an ex-abortionist, and he was talking about severe cases of fetal deformity and all of these things that come up when we talk about getting an abortion because the child is not viable or because of the mother being ill. And the reality is there are 0 medical cases, right, where an embryo is properly implanted. So, you don't have a tubular pregnancy or something like that. That's not viable, where you need to kill the baby. You deliver the baby. Deliver the baby. That's what we do. We deliver babies. We deliver babies and give them palliative care, or we deliver babies and we send them to the NICU and we try to help them live. One or the other. If that baby lives for 2 minutes, we make that the safest, most comfortable 2 minutes we can. But we don't kill babies. That's not what we do.
And have that power. Areas. If you take out the
And actually, can I tell you, the idea of giving an infant palliative care, I am ashamed to say that I never even thought of that. Like, I'm pro-life. And until I heard a doctor say that, like, even if the baby is very sick, even if the baby is terminally ill, when I heard a doctor say, you know what we do? We deliver the baby and we put the baby in hospice, the same way that we would do anybody else who was very, very sick. And I was so ashamed of myself that as somebody who's pro-life, it never occurred to me that you would give a baby palliative care and hospice them. As a woman who currently, my mother-in-law is in hospice, and my mother, you guys know, within a matter of just a few months, November to February, my mother died of cancer and I hospiced her. I'm so ashamed to say that as a pro-life person, it never occurred to me that a baby that is delivered, because I was hearing about babies with no skulls, babies with no brains, things like this, like really tough cases. Things that you would never want a doctor to tell you about your baby if you were pregnant. And I am ashamed to say that it never occurred to me that not only do we deliver that baby, but that we give that baby the respect we would give anybody who is dying, anybody who is terminally ill, that we hospice them. We give them palliative care to make them comfortable, and we love them. I am so ashamed to say that I did not think of that on my own. It was not until I heard a doctor say it that I said, oh my gosh, that is so true. That is the truth. That is what we do. We care for them the way we would anybody that we love. We hospice a baby. And although it's a horrible thing to hospice anybody, that is what we do. We treat them with the dignity of any other human being. That was one of the most beautiful things I had ever heard a pro-life person say. It was one of the most profound things in my journey to becoming pro-life, because I was pro-choice to a point. I was pro-choice until the heartbeat. I've told this story before. I'm not going to tell it here. My field of interest in college was molecular biology before there were molecular biologists, specifically neo-organs, and getting into that stem cell research, right? And back when they first started to use stem cells to create neo-organs, and my experience there actually made me pro-life. I wrote an entire paper on abortion, an entire paper, and I wrote an entire paper on my opinion about when abortion started to be wrong, because believe it or not, I used to be pro-choice, up into the heartbeat. But because of my understanding of stem cells and neo-organs and what biologically is a life, that whole experience, my whole passion for molecular biology left. And that is why I never became a molecular biologist, because I learned too much about human development. And I could not stand by it ethically. But in all of the years of that journey, it never occurred to me that we should hospice sick babies rather than kill them. That we should provide palliative care to sick babies. I don't know if this is the first time any of you guys have heard that, but I know for me, I was just this past year in 2022, had I ever heard anybody say that? And that was a thing that I needed to hear as a pro-life person. I needed to hear that. I needed to have that on my radar for my own peace of mind, for those really tough cases that people bring up about very sick babies that are in the mother's womb who may not survive. I needed to hear another pro-life person who was a doctor say, hey, we deliver those babies and we hospice those babies because they deserve dignity and comfort on their deathbed. That was like life-changing for me. Like, I'm so glad I heard that. It made me even more pro-life. And maybe, like I said, that's because I hospiced my mother who was very sick. Maybe that's because I'm currently hospicing my mother-in-law. I hospiced my grandmother. You know what I mean? I guess I've hospiced and I've seen so many people through the last parts of their lives that the idea of giving that respect to an infant, it seemed right to me. It seemed like a conversation I don't hear people having a lot. And I don't know. I know I'm going on and on about it, but I'm just telling you, like, that was such a beautiful, beautiful thing for me to hear. And it was so empowering for me to hear that. And I just wanted to share that because I don't think many of us have considered that.
The viewpoint that life begins at conception, which is a really big defining principle for both the pro-life crowd, who very, very, vehemently believe that, and then obviously a lot of the pro-choice crowd do not believe that. Taking that out of the equation, you do not have just whatever kind of autonomy you want as a person. It's regardless of male or female. You can't just have free run to do whatever the hell you want. That's not how society operates. So at no point do I have the right to tell anyone in this room what they should or should not do with their body.
But it's not about your body.
It's not about me respecting a question here.
It's not about your body. It's about the kid's body. I don't care what you do with your body.
It's my body, right? We're talking about my body.
You're talking about
Jordan, I saw your hand creep up.
The Dobbs decision for me reinforced how important it is that we approach these issues from a cultural perspective, because it reinforces something that I have told many of my colleagues and peers in the past.
Y'all. Not this man right here. Not this man talking about. Sir, stay out of this. You don't even have a womb.
Which is that so long as you lack a cultural consensus, any issue can become a political football that can be decided by another election cycle. And so long as there is no strong consensus.
Yes, we can skip him. Somebody said, can we skip him? Yes. Yes, ma'am, we can.
Until there's another. I
want to talk about transgender issues. Should trans women...
Of course the transgender wants to talk about transgender issues. Of course he does.
Be included in feminist conversations? How about in women's spaces?
Yes, they're women. What's the question?
Pearl,
trans women are women.
So I want to come at this from the position of an.
Trans women are women is literally the most moronic statement I've ever heard. I hate when people say that. If they were women, then what does the trans mean? Make it all make sense.
athlete.
Oh, Jesus.
So I play semi-pro basketball, semi-pro volleyball. So when it comes to like athletic spaces, I don't think that trans women should be allowed into athletic spaces because I don't think it's a fair. I think we, as female athletes, we work so incredibly hard for the little opportunity there is in women's sports.
Would this be a barrier for you?
There's no barrier. There's less opportunity in some industries.
That's what
one
a
of them.
barrier is.
There's less. It's not. No. It's
That's
based
what
on the
friction
market.
means.
Okay.
That's not what a barrier is. Look, just because men's sports are more popular than women's sports, that's not a barrier. That's called just the market. You know what I mean? It's like saying ugliness is a barrier. It's like, some people are ugly, some people are pretty, people prefer pretty people. Like, I'm just, what I can't stand about snowflakes is they want a world where everybody's equal and everybody's not equal. Like, this is not kindergarten. In kindergarten, everybody gets a yellow star, everybody gets, a sticker, everybody gets an award. This is real life. In real life, everything's not equal. In real life, some people are prettier than you, some people are going to be liked more than you. In real life, if you have a bakery and somebody else has a bakery, they might like the cakes at someone else's bakery more than yours. Like, this is real life. Like, we're not all 5. We're not all toddlers. I can't stand the snowflake generation because their main complaint is that everybody's not liked equally. And it's like, no, are you serious? Everybody's not liked equally? You mean that this is reality? Okay, so nobody wants women's basketball as much as men's basketball. There are reasons for that. I don't really see the value in women's basketball. I mean, that's just me personally. I haven't spoken on the chick that, they say from overseas, and maybe I shouldn't speak on the chick they say from overseas because y'all really don't want to hear what I have to say. I mean, I personally, it's not that she's a basketball player. You know what? Let me not say it because y'all aren't ready. You guys are not ready for my commentary. You guys are not ready for my commentary. Let me just stop because that might have to be a members and Patreon only conversation because when I tell you guys, my political incorrectness knows no bounds. So let's just get off of what's her name.
Hold on, guys.
Okay, so again, we work very hard for the little opportunity there is in the space because we're not as entertaining as the men. Sorry, we're just not. And so it's like you're going to take the little opportunity that we're given. And the problem is we can't compete. We can't. Like, I'm 6 foot. If I go up against a 6 foot guy and I play basketball with him, he's going to body me.
And what happens if I go up against you?
Even if I have years more of training. And so it's like you're taking away the little opportunity that we're given and we all work so hard for. And you're just giving it back to biological guys. It's like, this will be the end of women's sports.
Have you tried confidence?
Eli, hold on, Minnie.
Sorry,
Eli.
confidence can't make me bench what a guy benches.
I don't
Confidence can't make me
you guys
6'7".
are so hostile. She's sharing her experience.
Like, honestly, confidence. So the problem isn't with the men masquerading as women trying to compete against women. I'm upset that she used basketball. I wish she would have used something like, boxing. I would have busted out all these women getting their heads bashed in and stuff. Like, we're really confident. Was confidence going to get that woman from getting her brain smashed in? Was all she lacking was a little bit of confidence, and that dude wouldn't have bashed her skull in? Is that what we're saying? They couldn't have had me on this panel. First of all, the panel would have never made it to air. Let's just start there. I was invited by Jubilee. You guys don't know this. Jubilee invited me a while ago, like maybe 2 years ago. And I had asked O'Shea Duke Jackson. I was like, O'Shea, should I do it? And he was like, yeah, do it. But I didn't do it. I told them I was going to do it. And then I had some business in the Bay Area and it was just too much of a hassle for me to get out to LA. But so I just skipped out on them. Like, literally, the day before I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. But You know what occurs to me? I think God knew that I should not be on any panel because, first of all, the panel could never air. Y'all, it would never air. It would I would have come, I would have been all the way out of pocket. It would have never aired. Why use basketball? There are so many instances where trans people, grown men, have severely hurt women playing a sport. I would bring up every single instance of severe deformment that trans men, or, I keep calling them trans men because they're men, that these men pretending to be women have done. Basketball would be the last example I would give because we have some examples. I would have been like, with confidence, have saved that chick from getting her brains bashed in. Like, what are you saying right now? Maybe domestic violence victims could, maybe the real issue in the domestic violence situation is that the person being beaten doesn't have the confidence to overcome the male, the male that's beating them up. Like, is this what we're saying to women now? Like, you just lack confidence. If these men are beating you, it's because you're not confident. So misogynist. When I tell you transgenderism is the height of misogyny, like so many women are worried about heterosexual men. Nah, y'all better watch out for these men that want to be women. They are the real misogynists. They are on some other stuff. They are off the chain.
No, she's sharing.
And I'd have to go.
No, she's not. She's a woman who's had an experience.
You guys are so obsessed with your own experiences and your own existence, and yet when a woman is sitting here telling you, "I feel as though this is unfair and this is compromising and this situation is not helping women," you guys are like, meh, meh, meh. But when you're like, "I'm a Black person that did this, 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 and this," then it's valid and fair and viable.
Eli, I want to give you the chance to respond.
So this is based.
Why the heck is she bringing Black people into this? Why do they do this? They're talking about transgenderism. What the heck does Blackness have to do with this? Why'd you have to make an example out of Black people? Ma'am, fall back. This was about men masquerading as women. How did we get involved in this? They're always dragging us into something, y'all. I can't make it. What does Blackness have to do with transgenderism? Not a darn thing. Nothing whatsoever. I don't even understand. Why would you bring Black people? You could have made your argument using trans people. What do we have to do with this? We didn't invent this transgenderism stuff. That was her people. That was the European. That was, they're the ones. I mean, heck, there's 3 transgenders on the panel. 2 on the panel and 1 moderating, and they're all white men. Why would you not talk about some white people stuff? Why are you bringing Black people into it? That actually really bothers me. It's like, what? We have nothing to do with this, ma'am. The Black delegation is not who's represented here. It's a bunch of white men that are transgenders on this panel. The question was about transgenderism, not Blackness. What the heck does Blackness have to do with transgenderism? Nothing. Nothing. I don't understand where that comment came from. It's like she's just waiting to say something about Black people. She just had to get it in wherever she could get it in. She just had to throw us under the bus in a transgender conversation like we wrote the book on this. Like anything about that has anything to do with transgenderism. I'm very confused.
Basically a joke of a talking point. Everyone has biological advantages in sports. How tall are you?
5'11" and a half. I'm tall.
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush
bone density.
Wait, Samuel, hold on. You would not have known that this was a man?
A joke of a talking point.
Sir, we need to talk.
Everyone has biological advantages in sports. How tall are you?
5'11" and a half. I'm tall.
I'm 5'8". I am a trans woman. You would crush me. You would absolutely crush me.
Density.
I don't, you know what? You know who else does this? What's the trans person, the conservative trans person here on YouTube? Blair White. Blair White likes to pull this crap that this little dinky trans dude pulled. You know how, okay, so Purple Dress Lady said that she's 5'10" and a half. So she's a exceptionally tall woman. Exceptionally tall. And it's always some skinny, malnourished little boy who decided to be a woman who's always trying to throw himself out on the table like, well, you could be able to beat me. It's like, sir, first of all, the exceptions don't prove the rule. Okay? You don't get to walk up. I can't even believe I'm defending Purple Lady, but you don't get to walk up to Purple Lady. You don't get to walk up to Purple Lady simply because she's 5'10" and you're a little skinny 5'8", 8 foot tall man. You don't get to walk up to Purple Lady and be like, you'd crush me. And that's all you need to know about men participating in women's sports. It's like, no, sir, just because you're skinny and short and decide that you want to pretend to be a girl doesn't suddenly, and just because she's an exceptionally tall woman doesn't suddenly mean that trans people should be playing. And they're only talking about men playing sports against women. You notice the trans people who are women who think they are men are not begging and constantly going on and on and on about being able to compete in men's sports. Because those chicks know darn well they're not trying to get hurt playing football. They're not trying to get hurt boxing. They're not trying to do that. It's always the men who want to be women who are whining about this. And I just think it's very disingenuous because, yeah, there are definitely women who can beat up men. There's some tiny 5'3" tall, skinny man out there, and some 250-pound, 5'10" girl could whip his butt. Now, if his little butt came and said, you see, men are not stronger than women because you could totally beat me up. Sir, your 5'3", 115-pound, butt soaking wet is not representative of most men. And her 250-pound, 5'10" self is not representative of most women. You don't get to use the fact that she beat you up to try to say that men are not stronger than women. In the same way, this skinny, boy right here doesn't get to go to Purple Dress Lady because she's weirdly tall and tell her, oh, you'd crush me. So, since you could crush me, that means that all men that want to be women should be able to play sports. It's like, no, sir, that's not how this works. Like, fall back, okay? She's still a chick. Nobody cares. And quite frankly, I honestly think if he stepped into his manhood, he could probably beat up, Purple Girl. Because that little 2 inches, she still is a woman. And he still could probably punch her and make her fall out with his man hands. Now, it's a bad situation when Purple Girl, who I'm really not loving during this, has to be defended.
Yeah. Muscle density. You can't switch those.
Yeah, exactly. You would crush me.
But also, Eli, you would never play at the level that Pearl plays because you would never get there.
So let me give you a few more examples here too. So Michael Phelps produced more lactic acid in his body, which caused him to swim better than any of his competitors. This was widely celebrated and nobody contested it. Now,
did she just bring up a man competing against other men as evidence for why men should be able to compete against women? Carry on.
This is a performance-enhancing hormone. So we all have different bodies. And now I'm not saying that trans women who aren't on hormones should participate, but every major medical and every major sports organization agrees that trans women who have been on hormones for between 1 and 3 years, depending on the organization, have the same competitive abilities.
The study that you're referencing had 7 people participate.
Oops, she got moted. Oh my gosh, he got moted. All of this he stuff is confusing me. I don't think that skinny 5'8" dude was expecting Jeans Lady. I don't know any of these people's names. Jeans Lady to know the study. So now he's about to lie. And now that he's in shock, look at his face. Can you see his face? He's shocked. He's like, oh my gosh, she knows the study. He's going to deny it. Even though he literally said there was a study, he's literally about to lie.
That is misinformation, by the way. I'm referencing several different studies. I'm a trans woman and a researcher.
It's getting personal. I don't want it to be
personal. A lot of us live in this space where we're told that our opinions don't count because they're not the right kind.
I'm still on the dude that said he would not be able to tell that the host, the moderator, was a man. I clocked the moderator as a man, like initially, like the minute this opened up, because that was evident.
Kind of opinions, and we're constantly shouted over and talked over regardless of what we look like, because there's one group in society that basically takes precedence, and it's frustrating. So yeah, of course, it's frustrating because when we try to talk about it, we get shouted down, we get told to be quiet, we get spoken down too as well. So
Okay,
there's hostility there for plenty of women.
Oh my gosh, I missed that. Who was doing that weird laugh? Was it No Legs? Okay, I didn't see who was just laughing, but like my money is on No Legs, because No Legs is a mean girl. Y'all tell me, did you see it? Was it No Legs that was ha 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 ha? It seems like a No Legs thing, because No Legs is off the chain.
Women.
Let's try to make this an opportunity to speak.
You're literally a white woman from Australia. You live in a bubble and you're pissed that voices that have been.
Dude, did she just call Jeans Lady a white woman from Australia? You're a white woman from wherever you're from. It's, you guys, that's why I made a whole video. I don't know if this is on my Patreon and members page or if it's public. I'm pretty sure it's on Patreon and members. I made a whole video about this whole idea of people of color that is allowing entire white women. Like, if this white woman, let me ask you a question. Hold on, let's look at her real quick.
Been silenced forever. Finally.
If this white woman right here, who's enraged right now, if she had not repeatedly told us throughout this whole panel that she grew up Muslim, that she grew up in a Muslim country, blah, 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 would you just have thought that this was a white woman? Some kind of brown-haired white woman? It's the people that have to announce the fact that they're not white for me. Like, if you have to announce the fact that you're not white, like if I could not look at you, let's just mute her for a second. If I could not mute you and not know that you're literally white, or not know that you don't want to be called literally white, not a white woman from Australia, honey, you're just as white as her. Y'all are both white. Am I missing something? Is she not a whole white woman? Or am I going crazy? It's these white women trying to other themselves for me. She's so irritated. She's like, and then, sir, you can't tell this is a man. I'm done. This is out of control. The white women are trying not to be white women. The white men are trying to be white women. This is a weird panel. This is a weird, you know what this is? This is a bunch of white people fighting each other. This is the most fascinating panel I've ever seen. It's a weird panel. This is where the snowflakes have gone. They keep blaming this on really Black people. They're blaming Black people for being hypersensitive. But have you noticed that the whole racial discrimination conversation has been taken over by white people claiming to be disenfranchised? You have white men dressed as women claiming to be disenfranchised. You have white women who are Muslim claiming to be disenfranchised. Just everybody's disenfranchised. It has literally become a conversation amongst white men and white women. This is like feminism all over. Feminism has become the same thing that it started. White men and white women fighting each other. That is what this panel is showing me. Like, I don't even want to bring this to race, but it's hard not to when 3 of the people on the panel are white men pretending to be women. And then you have a white woman with no legs and a white woman who is Muslim trying to make believe that they're not white too. It's like, y'all stop fighting each other, okay? Like, this is back to the original feminism. The only thing that's changed is now the men are in dresses.
Okay, we're having a conversation about transgender women participating in sports, and I wanted to allow more people to participate. Jordan, I wanted to hear from you.
So I am not a professional athlete. The closest thing I have ever done to anything athletic was I used to do competitive show.
You really think the host is passing pretty well? I think the host and this dude look the most like men. I think the skinny dude on the side is the one that's passing the best. Except for his voice is giving him away. But I don't think the host is passing very well. What are you guys saying about white women? Are you trying to say that white women look masculine? Because this sounds a little bit racist to me, okay? Are you suggesting that there are very few physical differences between white women and white men? Because that host looks like a man to me. The host was the most obvious man to me. Along with this dude, they were equally obvious. The one that I thought was passing the best was the one that was, this one right here. I thought this one was passing the best, although that brow ridge is very severe if we're keeping it 1,000. But okay, I mean, y'all, if you guys think that he's passing, I don't, but y'all might.
For transgender people in social life. And the right sees this as a socially acceptable way to begin to remove trans people from different engagements in our society. So it does just start with sports or bathrooms or locker rooms, something that they find is more acceptable. And then at this point, they started to move into education, getting trans teachers fired, banning trans books. This is a route that is very effective because it's seen as more acceptable. But it's also overlooking a lot of major details. Like, I mean, do y'all know how many trans women have won national titles?
One too many.
One.
One too many.
Leah Thomas is the only one.
Too many.
If
one too many?
if women's sports were actually going to end in some way, I mean, it's just not happening. Wouldn't you think there would be more trans women in sports when the majority of states do allow trans women full participation? International titles, 0. No global titles have ever been won by a trans woman.
I want to move on to a different topic. I want to talk about Me Too and sort of this social movement that we're living through right now. What is the state of feminism sort of in this post-Me Too era?
We're in post Me Too.
All right. Tell me.
Sorry, I got distracted by the Me Too part. So I was like, we're in post Me Too? Wow. Like, no one's getting like sexually harassed anymore. Like,
we did it, guys. We solved the problem.
Right? We want that world. No, I think obviously the state of feminism is very much reflected right in this room. But
y'all, Pearl is not a man. Now, Pearl's unattractive, but Pearl's not a man. Come on, y'all, don't be naughty.
Me Too for me, right, in a particular context means something for different people. It's a different experience for different people. In my culture and in my community, we're still working through that. There is no post Me Too, right? We're still working through how do we have these tough conversations? How do we teach not just, women, but everyone about consent? What does consent look like? What does that look like in our community? What does that not look like? Right? All those things that I think it's still very complicated. But I think it starts at the level of community, right? Of like, how do we have these conversations around consent?
Sydney, I saw your hand up.
So when the Me Too thing was unfolding, I was initially like, great, I love the idea of women being able to speak out. What's been really disappointing, I suppose, for me, post Me Too, as we're calling it, is that, and especially as someone who's sort of on the right wing.
You guys notice she starts getting real crazy eyed. Like, this is about the point where I don't know what goes on with her. I know she's when people get the crazy eyes, when their eyes start getting like really buggy and big, it concerns me. She is crazy. Watch her. She's got the crazy eyes a few times, but it's about to go into hyperdrive. Her eyeballs are about to be like popping out her head.
of politics. I think that a lot of the experiences of women on the right get a bit trivialized because there is a lot of politicizing of sexual assault. So when something legitimately happens on our side of the table and someone tries to speak up about it, there's almost an automatic disbelief. And I understand why. It's because of the believe all women type of stuff that came out of the Me Too movement, that a lot of us were like, wait a minute, no, people do use these situations for gain. People do make things up. People do lie. But it is sad to watch it happen. It makes me sad that we're here.
Jordan?
I feel like there'll never be a post Me Too because at the heart of it, Me Too is just a phrase. The spirit of what Me Too represented will always be relevant. And that is that you are empowering individual women to advocate for themselves and speak out when they feel like they're being wrong. Ideally, you're just trying to be the most transparent and self-accountable person you can be. And you need to hit all of those fronts if you want it to last on a cultural level.
How about beauty standards? We talked a little bit about this got brought up at the beginning. How does that tie into femininity?
Sorry, I'm very into this idea because I do think it is one of the larger intersections that just doesn't get very discussed.
All right. You guys know I made my video, Rise of the Rejects. I really think I can't. I'm going to listen to this. I'm just saying, like, y'all just let it go. Look, there's always somebody. My mom told me something that I really needed to hear. And I feel like everybody needs to hear this. There is always somebody more attractive. Period. Fast fact. There is always somebody more attractive. There's always somebody more attractive. For all of us. For all of us, there's always going to be somebody more attractive. So just deal with it. This idea that we can train people to like ugliness is a delusion. Okay? Nobody's going to like ugliness better than they like attractiveness. It's just never going to happen. Just let it freaking go. All right? This whole rise of the reject society we're living with, I'm just not with it. I'm personally not with it. I'm kind of over it.
Which is, like I was talking about before, barriers and friction are placed up around bodies. And the fatter I get, the older I get, the less people will listen to me, the less value I will have for society. So, I'm already starting out as a woman with no legs. If I had something on my face, I have my beauty. That's one of my privileges. I have my whiteness. That's one of my privileges. I used to have thinness, and now
Honestly, her biggest issue is not her looks. Her biggest issue is that she has no legs. Not that she's a woman with no legs, that she has no legs. Like, she's worried about physical appearance. Ma'am, you have no legs. It's the no leg thing that's really hurting you. It's not what you look like. Like, you automatically have no legs. That is your biggest challenge. That's your biggest challenge. You're average looking at best. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I shouldn't have said that. She's average looking at best. At the very best, on her best day, which is probably today. But that's not her problem, because you could be stunning, but having no legs is a huge challenge. She's focused on the wrong ish. Look, if I had no legs, I think I would recognize my biggest concern is that I have no legs. And that's like not even a woman thing. It's like not having legs, heck, not having an arm. Missing limbs is like a huge, like, that's the first. You think anybody is noticing her face first? Have you ever seen a person that was missing an arm or a leg or both legs or both arms, and the first thing you notice is how beautiful they are? No, the first thing you notice is that they don't have arms or legs. This woman is, I'm just so confused. Like, I guarantee you, nobody's ever approached her. Like, the average female experience is that when people approach you, they're looking at your attractiveness. But if you are a man or a woman who's literally missing a whole body part, no less two of the same body part, the first thing people notice is that you're missing limbs. Nobody's looking at your face. They're trying, and if they are looking at your face, it's because they're trying to avoid seeming like they're rude by staring at the fact that you have no limbs. Like, what we really want to look at is your legs. We're curious about that. What is there? Do you have stumps? Are you totally flat? Is there a vagina? I don't know. Do you have a bag attached to you? Like, these are the questions we're asking ourselves. We don't even, like, your face and your attractiveness is like the last thing any of us are thinking about. We have 8 trillion questions about the leglessness. We have like 0 questions about how cute you are. Like, if she sat down with somebody and they had the free reign to know that she wouldn't be offended, who's asking conversations? Who's trying to have a conversation about her face? You tell me 99.999% of your questions isn't about these legs. How'd you lose your legs? You know, how far up does the leglessness go? You know, do you have a vagina or do you have like a bag? Can you have sex? Can you get pregnant? You know, what has it been like having no legs? How do you get dressed in the morning? I can think of a million things I want to know about this woman. A million things that in a split second are crossing my mind. And the very last thing that any of us are thinking about is if she's cute. Like, none of us care about that. We are fascinated by the leglessness. Literally, she has a get out of jail free card about her face because nobody cares. No, like, just the reality of this is just a quick poll of the audience. If you know, I'm not saying, okay, Flora, I'm being serious because there's this guy with no legs. There is this guy with no legs. He also doesn't have a penis. And he is amazing. Like, he's able to do, he literally, he doesn't even have a penis. He was, and this is horrible. This young man was in a car accident and he lost all of his body. So the only thing he has is everything above his penis. So imagine if all of your organs got cut off, your whole body got cut in half above like your vagina. That is what this man lives with. So he cannot pee or use the bathroom normally because he doesn't have an anus and he doesn't have a penis. And I wish I could share this. It's the most amazing thing. He's like the most positive person. So when I say the bag thing, like, I'm not trying to be funny. I know that that's like a thing because he was really transparent and he did this whole video where he showed people how with no lower body at all, he gets ready, he gets himself dressed, he puts on his own bags. He has like this thing that he puts around his body that holds essentially what are his kidneys because the dude doesn't have any kidneys. Like, my whole point in saying this is like, nobody cares about her face. I'm not saying that pretty privilege is not a thing. I'm saying when you have no legs, like, nobody's even thinking about that. Like, ma'am, you have so many more things fascinating about you than your face. Like, we have questions and none of them are about your face. Am I lying? Am I making this up? Is it just me? Like, when you think about her, are you questioning all the stuff about the legs, or are you even caring about what she looks like? It could just be me. Maybe I'm a curious person. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm being weird, but I mean, it seems like that's logic. I mean, every little 5-year-old that sees her is like, what happened to your legs? It's like, we're all like, internally, we all become 5. You see an armless or a legless person, we all automatically become kindergartners with our questions. Like, we have questions. My point is, it's just, man, bow out of the pretty conversation. Like, nobody cares if you're pretty. We care about a lot of things, but not your prettiness.
I'm getting fatter. Things are changing. And I think every single time that we talk about feminism, pretty privilege should be discussed because we have these ideas. If your skin tone is this, if your hair is this, if your body looks like that, it's about whether or not you are given an equal opportunity based on what you look like.
I think a lot of times the women that complain about beauty standards don't complain about them when they got privilege, when they were young and attractive and thin. So it's like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, her hand is deformed too. That's horrible. Y'all, it's not that I don't have sympathy for legless women. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, ma'am,
You're complaining when the privilege is gone, but privilege is invisible to those who have it. And women, it's a privilege. And men don't turn 18 and get looks that we get.
As a Black woman, one of the most integral parts of the beauty conversation has been colorism. I'm a dark-skinned Black woman, proud of it and proud of being myself. For the most part, I did not. Why am I going to cry about this? Mm-hmm. I did not grow up thinking I was beautiful because I was that. And I think in the Black space, we have these conversations, but I think I'm glad to bring it up because I think feminists actually really should be part of the colorism topic, because colorism is not just shades within being Black. It's shades because the beauty standard is the closer to whiteness you are, the more beautiful you are. I think it's something that if more people in different shades, particularly white women, because of knowing that standard, and we work together on that, then we'd have a lot, I think, something we can unify on, but also something that we can make strides in right now.
Okay. I want to defend. Now, I know that everybody who's not Black, and some of you Black people are going to think that I'm defending this woman and her point of view because I am a Black woman and she is a Black woman. I know that you are. But I want to, and this is, like I said, there are intersections of womanhood. And I want to show something. I want to go to Sojourner Truth. And I want to read what she wrote. I think that this is not as relevant, but still very relevant today. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this speech, "Ain't I a Woman?" There she is right there. Sojourner Truth, right? And I just want to read what she said. This was in 1851. She was at a women's rights convention. And, the beginning of feminism. And I think that we have to give this some historical context, because I don't want anybody to think I'm siding with her simply because she's Black and I'm Black. But I think for Black women, historically, in the United States specifically, this is a valid intersection. A valid intersection if you even want to entertain the conversation about feminism. She said, "Well, children, there is so much racket. There must be something out of kilter. I think that between the Negroes of the South and the women at the North, all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. And this is so crazy that she says that the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. And what we see is that as women pushed harder, white men started putting on dresses and overtaking vice panels. White men in dresses started to infiltrate vice and because they were in a fix. So they had to fix the game. Anyway, she goes on to say, but what all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman?" I want to be clear that the context of this, right, is her pushing to be freed from slavery. She's saying white women have privileges. People are picking them, helping them in the carriages. They're not allowed to even get their feet dirty in ditches. She said nobody is doing any of that for her, and ain't I a woman? If you're saying women need this, then how come nobody's doing this for me? She said, look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted. I have gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold into slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me, and ain't I a woman? I'm gonna tell you something. Have you guys watched my power playlist? Some of the commentaries that I have done on speeches that these Black women gave during slavery would give you freaking chills. Chills. I love these women. I'm not going to read her whole speech. If you have not ever read the speech, I advise that you go read it. But historically, there is a valid intersection between womanhood and Blackness. Womanhood and Blackness. Between being able to get rights as a Black woman and being afforded rights as a white woman historically in the United States, in this country. And I'm not going to say things haven't changed. So much has changed and improved for Black women. So I'm not going to be one of those Black women that's going to pretend like we're actually literally living in the time of Sojourner Truth, because that would be a lie. I'm just saying that it's a valid conversation. That's a valid conversation to me. From a historical standpoint, and knowing that all of that has not been overcome yet, that's a valid conversation. Now, this does not mean, because the sister is pretty. Don't get me wrong, she's a pretty sister, but she's very obese. Okay, she is very fat. And that's not because she's Black, that's because she's fat. So there are some things about being beautiful that she is facing because she is like, I don't want to rate her, but you know what I'm saying? So part of this is you're probably close to morbidly obese. Part of this is just as a Black woman, you can be the most stunning Black woman and beauty takes you far. However, there are going to be barriers there. There are going to be barriers there, for sure. The darker the skin, and I think this is what she's about to go into, is colorism. The darker the skin, the less your beauty serves you, even though your beauty still serves you, right? Your beauty still serves you, but the darker the hue, the less your beauty serves you. That is just a fact. Because womanhood and Blackness is almost exclusionary of womanhood historically. That was what Sojourner Truth was saying. She was saying, I am a woman, but I am not treated in all of these ways you claim women should be treated because of my Blackness. And she was saying this at a women's rights meeting. So I just wanted to dip back into history a little bit because that was so powerful. And even though she was not the most educated person, she was just a enslaved woman who was forcibly bred with a man who impregnated her so that she bore all those babies that were sold into slavery that she talked about. She was just a very simple woman, an enslaved woman, but what she said was so deep. In her simple way, what she said was so very deep. And I think I just wanted to bring that up because I wanted to be clear that what this sister is saying, even though she's not the most beautiful woman, even though she is very, very fat, it's still valid, even for the most attractive of Black women.
That I'm just not seeing it. It's only, again, that's why people feel like you have to be a Black feminist, because it's an
Still Pulse, but was she an attractive woman? Is that a real question? Are you playing games? Because a lot of attractive Black women were enslaved. Slavery did not happen to attractive Black women. So let's not, come on now. Oh my gosh. Let's not do that. Let's not pretend like the only enslaved Black women were ugly. Slavery happened to all Black women, and being beautiful made you more of a target. It did not make you less of a slave. Let us not even play those games. Like, sir, oh my gosh, what in the hell? That is crazy.
It's a topic that only really Black feminists are talking about because it deals with being Black.
How do beauty standards make you feel, Morris?
I mean, kind of what you're saying, Antonia, as a Black Latina woman in my community, right? Like, I grew up and I was ugly, right? Like, that's what I was considered. I was not considered beautiful. Of feeling ugly, but also being told I was, right, had a lot to do with what is believed in my community, right? Colorism is one of them. And so to say, I'm going to redefine beauty for myself, and to say, I own myself and I get to decide what's beautiful, right? And I get to decide what I want to wear and how I want to wear it. And I don't need to, right? It's almost a repelling, right? Like, I'm like, no, you know what? I am beautiful. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna feel myself, because if no one else is gonna feel me, it's on me to feel me too.
I gotta say though, I did grow up being referred to as very beautiful for a woman with a disability. And that to me always fed this idea that disability.
Nobody ever said that to her. Y'all, you know what she's doing, right? You're pretty for a Black girl. You know what she's doing, right? Now you guys know how disabled people are treated in society. Like, you legit cannot say anything mean to them or even highly questionable to them, or people will treat you like you are the Antichrist. I think she just made that up. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. She's a liar. I believe her to be a liar. I can't prove she's lying. I'm just saying that. Have you ever heard a disabled person who has ever gone up to a midget or a person with no arms or no legs? You know, who's ever gone up to these people and been like, you're cute for a dwarf. You're pretty for a lady with no legs. None of us are doing that. We're so scared to be offensive. When you're around a disabled person, you are literally walking on eggshells. You don't want to act too nice and helpful because you don't want to treat them like they're not capable. You don't want to say anything mean or offensive. Like, most of us, when we're around disabled people, we don't even know how to be normal. We're so busy trying to navigate the disabled minefield. We don't even the main complaint of disabled people is they just want to be treated like everybody else, which is why my commentary is treating her like everybody else. Because I hear you, disabled people. I hear you. Okay, I listen. I know how to treat y'all like you're just like everybody else, because you are. Okay, but nobody in life. She said all the time, baby. If one person told you that was the only person that told you, you did not. I do not believe this, okay? I cannot prove it. But my spidey sense says that this is a lie, okay? I have no evidence of this. But my common sense says this is not a thing that has happened to her throughout her life. Throughout her life, people have not been approaching her and saying, hey, you're cute for a lady with no legs. You're pretty for a disabled chick. Who is saying that? That is crazy. Okay, goodness is saying it happens. It's because I grew up, like, my family has this adopted, and I've talked about this, white disabled people. My family has adopted several disabled people, and I just don't know. But if you say so, goodness says this happens a lot. Okay, all right, goodness, I'm gonna. Because you are throwing it out there, goodness, I'm going to choose to believe you. I really am. I will say she's not pretty, so maybe she was prettier when she was younger. But goodness says it does happen. Goodness says it does happen, so I believe you, Goodness. I don't. I believe you 70% Goodness. Let me give you 70.
Doesn't mean beautiful. I am in some form of exceptionalism, which I then had to keep up with forever. So it's like I got this thought as I started to age, like, you can have no legs, but you better not fucking get fat. And so this idea that like there are certain people who are beautiful and certain people who aren't, and that inherently holds value is, I think, find it in yourself, yes. And
Jordan?
Beauty standards are toxic bullshit hierarchical nonsense. And I say that as someone who has spent over a year collectively of my life in eating disorders.
Oh, y'all, honestly, I think that the only people that say that about beauty standards are ugly people and attractive people trying to be likable. Because, ugly people obviously are going to say that beauty standards are nonsense. Attractive people live in a world where if they even remotely pretend that they know they're attractive, people think badly of them. So you literally have incredibly attractive people running around being like down with the beauty, hierarchy when they don't really believe that. Like all attractive people can do is pretend that they've never looked in a mirror and absolutely say nothing at all to make people think they like themselves. Attractive people have to act like they don't like themselves or they are completely oblivious to what they look like. So, I just don't know about that. Like nobody is saying down with the beauty hierarchy unless they're ugly or an attractive person trying to be likable. This is my opinion. Y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, like you guys did with the disabled thing. Not everybody, but many of you are saying I'm wrong about the disabled thing. So am I wrong about this? Like, is it not ugly people and attractive people trying to be likable and relatable who are saying down with the beauty hierarchy?
Disorder institutions, because I have tried to put my body through hellish things to meet these beauty standards, which more often than not are not based in reality. They're typically trends. They're created to push things. They're extremely useful for marketing, but they don't serve anyone's health. They don't serve anyone's self-esteem. They only act to try and tell us that there's a allegedly right way to have a body.
Ooh, Sincere. Sincere said that woman's disability takes a back seat to her privilege. That's why she's more concerned about beauty standards. Wow. You could be onto something. And yes, Murder Magics, that is a man.
And if you don't occupy that space and have that body, then you're a piece of shit, which is absolute nonsense. And there are way too many women and men in the world who end up doing terrible things to themselves because they fall into this trap of thinking that you have to be this way. And if you aren't this way, then there's something inherently wrong at your core, which is nonsense. You're perfect the way you are. That's literally the core of it. You are perfect the way you are. And anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is feeding into this industry and is just there.
Y'all, you're not perfect the way you are, okay? We can all improve. We're not perfect the way we no. No. We are not perfect the way we are. That is crazy. Like there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying be unhealthy, but I'm saying don't be unhealthy. You know what I'm saying?
They're not your friend or looking out for you.
Layla?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, beauty in the industry is exploitative. But also we have to remember a lot of the beauty standards are based around health, what's perceived as health, like symmetry, certain weights, things like that. So there is that side where we have to balance it. And I think we're seeing so much.
Okay, I just feel like it's getting late in the video and I just have to be honest, like her wig is driving me freaking crazy. So I'm just throwing it out there. This whole interview, she's boring. So I haven't commented on anything she has to say because I find listening to her talk to be like watching paint dry. But this wig is the most interesting thing about her. Like, what in the flippy flap is going on with this wig, ma'am? What's under that wig cannot be so bad that she could not work with it, because this wig is a definite negative for me. Now, that is completely unrelated to everything she's saying. I acknowledge that. But it has been bothering me since the beginning of this. And I really don't care what she's talking about because it's just like, oh my gosh, get over it. Like, it just get past the thought, because I feel like I don't know what it is about when she talks. It just is so unappealing to listen to. I could be missing something very important, so I'm going to try to listen right now.
Much more representation, which I think is incredibly important.
Well, I just think that like, if women really cared about beauty standards, like the obesity rate wouldn't be what it is. Let's try to attain the beauty standards. I just think like some people are more attractive.
Oh, I pray to God that she doesn't have some condition. That's why she's wearing the wig. It's a bad wig, but let's hope that she's perfectly healthy and wearing a bad wig. I would hate to think that she's not healthy and wearing a bad wig. I cannot help that I'm distracted by the wig, though, because I really am. I'm sorry. I've been distracted this whole time. It's getting late. I've resisted the urge to speak on her wig, but now we're in the 9th hour, and I had to say something. It's just the truth.
Some people are less attractive, and that's just, where would I rate myself 1 to 10?
Well, we're not rating. It's okay.
That's what I mean. Like, I just think like some people are more attractive.
So if you were overweight, you don't care about beauty standards.
Well,
is that right?
Like the point is that the beauty standard is thin, right?
Your standard?
Obesity comes from men and women, though.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. But I'm saying if women really wanted to fit the beauty standard, they would be thin.
I know. From my experience as well, as growing up again in a mostly white neighborhood where
I don't want her to do this. See, sister, I'm not with. She's about to say something wrong. Look, being Black doesn't equal being fat. Okay, having a fat butt or having big breasts is not the same as just being fat. So she's about to say a lot of things that are true, but I mean, can we keep it 10,000% that both of the Black women on this panel are fat? So I don't like when they equate Black female bodies to fat, voluptuous, shapely. Okay, fat. Come on. There's a lot of skinny people in Africa who are not starving. They are just fit. So I mean, in America, we're just fatter as Americans. And I mean, let's let her talk. But I just want to make a distinction that if somebody is criticizing her body, it's not because she's got a Black woman's shape. It's because she's fat.
But I was always comparing myself to literally other people who have a different body type, but I was considered other or to something because it didn't conform to that body type. When that same body type became popular with Kim Kardashian, the Kardashians, who are different, right, than me, let's just say, are different.
Did she just compare herself to Kim Kardashian? Look, I know the Kardashians have had a lot of surgery, but no, ma'am. No. Like, I hear what she's saying, and I'm not saying it's not true, but for her to throw herself in there, ma'am, your leg is like the size of 2 legs on another person. She, again, is a pretty woman, but I think like this is where we step into the realm of delusion. Kim Kardashian's body is not like yours. Okay? The average, shapely Black woman's body is not like hers. She's, on the heavy side. And her body type is has never been popularized. I don't know what world she's living in. I've been on her side this whole video, sis. I've been on your side, but we need to stop this. We need to stop being fat and then talking about, our body type was popularized by Kim Kardashian. Like, that's not what happened. Big butts and big boobs might have been popularized by Kim Kardashian, but just being fat in general all over is not what was popularized.
Skin color, right? And there's a lot of animosity. In a lot of Black communities of the fact that when it was on Black skin, it was an issue, but when it was on Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians, it was $1 billion business.
Yep. Our time together has almost come to an end. We sort of started talking about feminism.
Okay, blah, 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 blah. It's all over. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section. All right. I will leave this public because I didn't say all the things I wanted to say. All my really controversial things, I kept to myself. I kept all to myself. But I know this wasn't the live I was supposed to do today. It's not. But it's the one that I found interesting. So maybe I'll do the other one tomorrow. I'll talk to you guys later. I'm going to get finished with what I was doing, which I told you guys at the beginning of the live. You can also let me know what you think about that. And let me know what you think about this panel. Were these women on point? Were they backward? Are you upset that I keep going live at random times with no with no notice? I just was listening to this panel. Literally, I was folding clothes and listening to this panel, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about this. And I went in the room and I was like, well, I'm doing tours anyway. Will you care if I talk about this? Oh, I'm going to trigger the feminists. Yes, I asked permission to make this live. That happened. I went to Mr. and I said, hey, Mr., since I'll be up doing my chores anyway, can I make this live? That is a conversation that actually happened. I love to throw this in both at the beginning and the end of this video because I know that's going to be so triggering for so many people. You mean she went and she asked a man for permission to do the live on feminism? That happened. And with that said, I'm going to go and I will talk to you guys later. Oh, and Happy New Year. Right. It's January 1st. Happy New, oh, wait, no, it's January 2nd now. Happy New Year, you guys.